In the serene town of Cape Coral, Florida, an ordinary night turned into a chilling nightmare when 11-year-old Robin Cornell and her babysitter Lisa were brutally murdered. The investigation exposed a dark truth. Both victims had endured unimaginable abuse and assault. For 26 years, the community and Robin's family sought justice, but the case remained cold. But what happened that fateful night? Who was the monster lurking in the shadows, and why did he choose these innocent souls? Join us as we uncover the chilling details of a case that slipped through the cracks of justice for decades, until one man's mistake finally brought a killer to light. Robin Cornell, born on November 30th, 1978 in Florida, grew up in a close-knit household with her mother, Jan, and her older sister. After their father drifted out of their lives, Jan, her mother, took on the responsibility of raising her daughters alone. When Robin was 10, she and her mother moved to Cape Coral, where Jan found a job at a nearby hospital, just a short walk from their new house. With her sister away at college, it was just Robin and Jan at home. Robin adjusted to life in Cape Coral quickly, making friends at school, joining sports teams, and embracing her new environment. An adventurous spirit, Robin loved spending time outdoors, often exploring nature with her friends. Her compassion for animals was clear, as she once rescued an injured bird, nursing it back to health until it could fly free again. Jan embraced the move to Cape Coral, feeling fulfilled. She secured a stable job and, for the first time in years, found room for romance with a man named Donald, allowing her to focus on her own happiness after dedicating herself entirely to her daughters. At the hospital, Jan formed a close friendship with a woman named Lisa. By early May 1990, recognizing that Lisa struggled to afford her own place, Jan suggested that she move in with them. Happy to share the rent, Jan had ample space in their two-story townhouse complex, which included a spare room for Lisa. Once she moved in, Lisa quickly bonded with 11-year-old Robin and even offered to babysit while Jan was at work. On the evening of May 9th, only a week after Lisa moved in, Jan made plans to watch a game with her boyfriend, Donald. Although she initially felt uneasy about asking Lisa to babysit Robin for the entire evening, Lisa quickly reassured her that she would be happy to help. Feeling relieved, Jan headed to Donald's house, planning to return in a few hours since she had an early shift at the hospital the next morning. After dozing off at Donald's house, Jan woke around 3 a.m. and prepared to head home. Upon arriving, she was startled to find both locks on her front door secured. This was strange, as she had only given Lisa the key to the top lock. While attempting to unlock the door, Jan heard footsteps inside, leading her to believe Lisa was coming to let her in. However, the footsteps faded away, and after knocking several times without an answer, Jan decided to check the back entrance. To her surprise, the sliding door was slightly open. Feeling uneasy at such a late hour, she tried to calm herself, thinking Lisa might have just forgotten to close it after letting the cats out. Yet, as she stepped inside and moved into the dark kitchen, a sense of dread began to wash over her. The house was in disarray, with belongings scattered and broken, hinting at a horrific event. When Jan went upstairs to Robin's room, she was devastated to find her daughter lying face down on the floor, bruised, and with some of her clothing in disarray. As she rushed over, Jan felt a chilling realization. Robin was cold and lifeless. Overwhelmed with shock, Jan called for an ambulance, desperately trying to save her daughter, even though she knew it was too late.
Someone broke in my house. I think my daughter's dead. Oh my God, please hurry. Ma'am, please just calm down with me. Oh my God!
I knew that she wasn't alive, but it was very confusing because I couldn't even sort out what may have gone wrong, what happened. It was like watching a movie that is so horrific, you have to close your eyes.
When the police arrived, they confirmed that Robin was dead. However, they also discovered another tragedy. In a different room, they found the body of 32-year-old Lisa. who also bore visible bruises. Medical examiners took both bodies for further examination. Detectives initiated their investigation and quickly stumbled upon several significant clues. They found numerous cigarette butts scattered around the house, which did not belong to either Lisa or Jan. On the nightstand in Jan's bedroom, the police discovered a set of car keys for a Toyota, compatible with various models from the 1980s. It seemed likely that the perpetrator had either forgotten them or intentionally left them behind for an unknown reason. Furthermore, investigators concluded that the killer had taken a shower after committing the murders, as there were still traces of wet blood present. They also noted that the assailant had left a pair of socks in the bedroom, leaving the police puzzled about their significance. With Jan's assistance, detectives noted several items missing from the home: Lisa's driver's license, credit cards, a checkbook, and a watch intended for her boyfriend, which had a personal engraving of affection. The choice of stolen items baffled the police. The watch was of little value and easily traceable, while the stolen credit cards could be tracked through ATM transactions. Additionally, they considered the arrangement of Robin's photos on the ironing board as potentially significant, possibly serving as a message to Jan or law enforcement. Local investigators quickly realized they needed more help and asked the state police to assist with the complicated case. Forensic experts arrived at the scene, using special tools to search the house for clues. They found that the intruder had entered through a first-floor bedroom window by cutting the screen. While looking at Robin's bed, they discovered biological material on the sheets and sent it to the lab for testing. Although DNA testing was possible, the detectives knew they would have to wait for the results. At the same time, medical examiners confirmed that both Lisa and Robin had died from asphyxiation. They reported that the attacker had struck them several times before suffocating them with pillows. Both victims had also been sexually assaulted, and evidence was collected from Robin's body for further analysis. A male hair strand was found on Lisa's body and was sent to the lab as well. While waiting for the DNA results, the police started looking for possible suspects. The investigation took a promising turn when Jan revealed that she had been disturbed by strange sounds for the last 3 nights. She heard the gate in her yard creaking and thought she could hear someone trying to open the sliding back door. It was too dark for her to see if anyone was outside, which left her feeling uneasy. On the morning of May 9th, Jan woke up to a shocking sight: a man standing outside her window. He smiled at her, then vanished from view. Although she felt scared by this incident, Jan decided against calling the police, as she hadn't gotten a good look at the man's face and assumed he might be a resident from one of the neighboring townhouses. Detectives quickly began interviewing Jan's neighbors and checking alibis for all the men in the area on the night of the murders. They initially identified 19 potential suspects, narrowing it down to 10, but couldn't confirm any involvement. Forensic analysis revealed that the semen found on Robin's body and bedding came from the same man, but there were no matches in the FBI database or among the neighbors' DNA samples. Some neighbors refused to provide DNA samples, leading detectives to zero in on one particular man. Neighbors mentioned that he had a history of peering into windows, though he had never been charged with any crime. Their suspicions intensified when he abruptly moved to another state shortly after the murders. The police looked into his possible involvement and even traveled to Missouri to question him, but they couldn't find any evidence linking him to the case. Jan recognized him from a photo and said he looked like the man she had seen outside her window, but investigators still couldn't establish a clear connection to the murders. Detectives searched for Toyota owners linked to the keys found in Jan's room, but this led nowhere. With several of Lisa's belongings stolen, including a watch for her boyfriend, they suspected the killer had a personal connection to her. They investigated her boyfriend and ex-partners but found no evidence tying any of them to the crime. The investigation hit a standstill, stretching on for months as detectives looked into new suspects and tried to match their DNA to the killers, but every lead went nowhere. Jan repeatedly asked the public for any information that could help catch the person responsible. She was shocked that none of her neighbors heard anything strange that night, considering how violent the attacks were. The case received national news coverage, leading to many tips coming in, but sadly, None of them helped solve the crime. About a year after Lisa and Robin's murders, the police found a new suspect. This 27-year-old man lived nearby and admitted to killing 3 people over a few years. He also warned that if he wasn't locked up for life, he would kill again. Detectives looked into him for the murders but discovered he had no connection to the case. After this, the investigation hit a standstill for many years. Jan sometimes spoke to the local news, hoping for justice for her daughter and friend. The police assured her that they were still working on the case, but they had no fresh leads to pursue. In 2005, the investigation into the murders was revived after 15 years. The police department provided funding for a detective to concentrate solely on the case for a period of 6 months. Unfortunately, despite the detectives' dedicated efforts, they were unable to uncover any new information or make progress in identifying the killer. Years passed without any progress in the case until August 2016, when an unexpected event occurred. Authorities in a nearby town, located just 6 miles from Jan's home, arrested a 54-year-old man for an unrelated crime, attacking his adult son with an air rifle. This incident reignited interest in the long unsolved murders. After Joseph Zeller was arrested for attacking his son, he was required by law to submit a DNA sample. Detectives working on the case of Lisa and Robin were thrilled to discover that Joseph Zeller's DNA matched the semen samples taken from the crime scene. They quickly obtained a direct sample from him, as he was already in custody. The lab results confirmed that the DNA from Robin's body was a perfect match to Zeller's, who was 28 when the murders happened, had mostly a history of minor crimes. 2 months after Lisa and Robin's deaths, he was arrested for selling stolen items and having an illegal gun. But he didn't have to provide a DNA sample due to the laws at that time. He wasn't a suspect in the case, and detectives were unaware of him since he lived in a nearby town. After his DNA matched the evidence from the crime scene, Joseph was arrested, and the prosecution sought the death penalty. He claimed he was innocent while waiting for his trial in jail. As the trial began on May 8, 2023, nearly 33 years after the murders, Joseph faced serious charges supported by multiple DNA samples linking him to the crime. The prosecution argued that his actions were premeditated, highlighting how he attacked the victims, stole belongings, and meticulously staged the scene. Despite having years to confess, Joseph showed no remorse and insisted he was innocent. During the trial, his lawyer struggled to present a strong defense, merely suggesting that Joseph had no motive. When Joseph took the stand, he became erratic, yelling at everyone. When questioned about how his DNA was found on Robin's bedsheet and pillow, Joseph bizarrely claimed he had slept with her mother months prior and blamed her for not washing the bedding, calling her a pig. Jan, forced to listen to his remarks, firmly stated she had never seen him before his arrest and had never allowed him into her home. To counter Joseph's claims, the prosecution presented an expert who confirmed that the semen traces were fresh, supported by documented evidence. The jury took just 5 hours to find Joseph guilty of the murders, leaving the court to determine his punishment. Ultimately, the judge sentenced Joseph to death, and he was taken to prison, where he remains. Jan and Lisa's family expressed their heartfelt thanks to everyone involved in bringing the case to a close. While Joseph never confessed to his crimes, the evidence against him was overwhelming, granting both families the justice they sought. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this story in the comments. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Thank you for your support.